Hello and welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Fara. I am delighted today to have with me Janiss Ehlers. She is the president of the Ehlers Group, specializing in senior living, communications, serving clients both locally and across the country.
Fara, thank you so much for inviting me. I've been looking forward to this.
You know, we have a relationship for many years, and it's so nice to see you and to understand you as a public relations person, because often we don't get that kind of relationship. So to me, this is a very intimate 30 minutes that I get to learn a lot about what you do, Janis, and why you do what you do. So I know this has been a 30-year journey. Take me back to the humble times of Louisville, Kentucky. We were just talking off camera.
Well,
were you wearing your bonnet like a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, I get very excited for the Kentucky Derby. So it was a mint julep in hand and my chapeau, I believe. And I was rooting, and I have a big race coming up this Saturday too. So photography is my hobby, so periodically I hang out at Gulfstream Racetrack and photograph. So I think horse racing, it goes back to my roots where I was born.
It's so funny. You sit and you watch the Kentucky Derby, and when I sit and watch the Academy Awards, and I sit there in my gown, and I'm thinking maybe they'll call my name this time. So it's just really a pleasure. What becomes part of who we are is where we grew up, and how that really affected what you were doing. Is senior living part of that experience for yourself?
No, I really don't believe so. Senior living, it was an evolution. And years ago, I started my career out of a public relations company, and then I moved to Century Village, which was really the precursor of 55-plus communities. And I was the editor of their newspaper. It was sort of like one of the community news issues. It's pretty amazing. But I wrote, and I sort of got this foundation for senior living, and all of the residents were 55 plus. So it was an evolution in my career that I went to Levitt Homes, and back then we were doing 55 plus communities. They also evolved into senior living, and it was just a natural fit for me because I had this foundation, and I always said, I can relate to the customers when they got into senior housing. The customer just got older. So it's just been an evolution in my career. And then when I started my company.
How many years ago was that?
I was at 30, I guess. Nearly 30.
Isn't that amazing when you look back on a timeline, you go 30 years? How did that happen?
I know. Where did it go? So when I started the company, I tried. I was trying to do PR for everything, and if I could pitch a hotel, I tried the hotel. I tried a bank, and it just, if you went into if you were in a pitch and then someone said, well, how many other hotels do you have? And you said, I would say, you would be my first and my only. So it just worked out that I started really focusing more on real estate. And then I got a call that every PR person dreams about. From the National Association of Home Builders, their book division, an editor called me and said, would you be interested in writing a book on senior housing? And I said, you made my dream.
You made my day, right?
You made my dreams come true. Of course. How could I say no? And I didn't care anything about how much money, was involved. It was just this idea of writing the book. So I wrote my book. Marketing senior housing,
and it's on in our screen right now. And
that's the second edition. So, and then sort of like the die was cast. That then I just decided I'm not going to keep chasing real estate developers and all these other types of clients, and I'm just going to focus on senior living. And I also found that people that do business working with seniors are really kinder and gentler people, and it has worked out really well for me.
What has been the greatest lesson that you've discovered within yourself working specifically with seniors and in this genre?
Well, and it's really one of the things that separates our company from others. We really get to know a community, and by doing that, we really get to interact with the residents. And I have an appreciation for these older people, and they all have such rich stories, and they're inspirational. You know, when you sit and talk to somebody who's 92 and they're telling you how they swim every day and they walk in the evening, I go home and I say, darn, I got to really embrace this exercise, you know, if it's working for them. So I just find we invest a lot of time in getting to know the residents, and I think that's really what gives me the joy.
And how do you find these communities to work with as a PR person? Because what I was reading, you hold their hands. You help these communities along for whatever they need, filling in the gaps that they need. Because the industry has probably changed from 30 years ago when you were with Century Village to where you're working now, and how people come to market and how they contact these individual locations and brands and partnering for their loved one, that their most precious loved one. Mm-hmm. Where am I going to put my mother, my father, a sibling in that time? So how has that changed?
Well, by focusing on the senior housing industry, we try to go where our potential clients are. So I've had to really change the direction of our marketing, and you don't find me any longer at the chamber meetings, in doing a lot of things that I did early on in when I was growing the business. And I just target the senior housing trade associations. And through the years that I've been invested in the business, people know my name. So now we use the internet to do much more marketing for our company.
And how do you set yourself apart from the other PR firms that are in the industry right now?
Well, I'm one of the few that specializes in senior housing. And the services that we offer are very directed to helping bridge the gap between the community and their consumer. And also their consumer not only is the person that's moving in the community, it's the adult child. So we're that link between the community and the consumer.
And are you finding that social media is playing a big part in this for you?
Oh my gosh.
And how has that changed? I mean, the industry, it seems like it's like a firecracker. You just hear today, it's another thing tomorrow. And how do you approach this and explain this to your partners?
Fara, it has changed so dramatically. It used to be that communities would advertise. You know, the newspapers were thicker, and it was part of their marketing budget to have print advertising. And this has basically gone away, and now they're spending so much more money using the internet for advertising. So it affects us because there are opportunities for advertorial space. Where you're buying an ad and you get an article as an exchange, and those opportunities, if they aren't buying the ads, we don't get the PR space. So we've really had to pivot into the services that we provide a community with, social media to justify our existence, and be it writing blogs, writing really compelling Facebook blurbs, helping them get out to the consumer. So that has really changed.
Yeah, the whole industry is upsided, and you've written books. So tell me about these books and how to have a successful event. Who would think of something like that but you and the communities that are helping bring in either residents or community awareness?
Well, from my vantage point, we kept finding that, if we were working with a community and we'd say, you need to have a lunch and learn, and they'd look at you with a blank stare saying, we don't know how to have a lunch and learn. And
explain what a lunch and learn is for an audience that might not know.
Well,
the only thing that's missing here is our lunch. Where would you like us to order it? Let's order it right now.
In senior living, a lunch and learn is you bring you use your database, and you invite people in for an informative lecture, and you show off your chef's talents and serve lunch. Marketing events for senior living communities need to be entertaining, educational, and also offer an opportunity to bring customers back multiple times, because it's not like buying a car. You walk into a dealership, you buy the car. In senior living, you walk in, you have to really nurture a relationship. So someone may visit a community 3 times, 6 times, 8 times, and there needs to be reasons that you're bringing them back.
And also, it's you might not need those services at that moment.
Oh, of course.
It might be later on, or as the relative or friend is getting older, and that's when you'll need those services. So you need to be in front of them constantly.
Yes.
So how do you prep? How do you prep for these events, these lunch and learns?
Well, the nice thing when you're working with a community, they have their chefs. They have some of the internal people to make that event happen. But we work with the team in developing the concept of the event so that it would be attractive to somebody. It's like you just can't offer another estate planning lecture. It has to have a hook. If the hook, let's say you have an attorney, you want to have a lunch and learn, and you have an attorney who can talk about estate planning, it's much more engaging. And what we would come up with is an idea such as a woman's guide to estate planning, or what your husband didn't tell you, or what some hook that would attract the customer. And so then we work with the community to make sure all of the details are covered, from signage outside to the valet, where people are going to park, how are they going to be registered when they come in, what's going to happen, how's the traffic going to flow. So we help them work on all of these details so that the customer comes, has the experience, and then there's follow-up.
And then you also have authored 3 books?
Yes.
Tell me, in your spare time, what do you do? You shoot photography at Gulfstream Park.
I do.
Shout out to Gulfstream Park for having wonderful horses.
What do I do?
We both drink water right now. To you. To women.
The books are really geared to the people that are in the industry, but that need some guidance. So they're all how-to. And the event book, it covers everything from how to have a grand opening to how to have a lunch and learn, all the different types of events that a community could offer. The funniest thing, though, the book took I don't know, maybe 6 months, 8 months to write.
Let's talk about that process. Is this like every day I sit down and I write? Do I do it on my PC? Do I do it hand? Do I do it in my thoughts? Do I look up at my ceiling? What makes a person write a book or want to write a book? And how does that happen for you? Because it's not just one. I mean, you came to the party with 3 books.
Well, the first book, the Home Builders Association asked me to write. So I wrote that. And then when I went back and looked at it, I said, we really need a second edition. This needs to be updated because things were changing. So that's the evolution. So it was really, that's why it's a second edition.
So do you sit and, all right, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to take 2 hours, I'm going to take 15 minutes, I'm going to take when it comes to me, I'm going to take a walk, and then I'm going to be inspired. How does that happen?
I go away. I went out of town to basically turn off my day-to-day so that I could really focus on the book.
You had to be quiet.
And I start with an outline and just keep writing.
Interesting. And you've had 3 books. And how are those being brought to market?
Well, I self-published the 2, and they're on Amazon. And, because I'm a promoter, it comes sort of naturally that it's on our website, and it's whenever we're doing an e-blast, it's always, it's there.
And it's so funny because I
believe me, I could not support myself on this.
Of course not. But this is in addition to, and I know we have a relationship, like I alluded to earlier, off camera, working together. But what I find really interesting, I didn't know you even did books until I was on social media and I saw this book. I'm like, what? Janice is a writer too? What else does this woman do?
Writing's my core. So writing comes easily.
Did you want to do that when you were knee-high to a grasshopper? I want to be a writer when I grow up. I wanted
to have a career. I always wanted to have a career.
So you're a woman-owned business.
Yes.
And you wanted a career. And when did this all happen that you said, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to chart my own destiny.
Well, I'm the oldest in my family.
So you're determined. You're the determined one.
I think so. I think it was just I wanted a career, and I'm the product of Murphy Brown and
great show.
The girl that was with the newspaper.
Not Mary Tyler Moore.
Tyler
Moore.
Yes. I mean, this is what I grew up on, and Mary Tyler Moore had this phenomenal apartment. I wanted an apartment, and I wanted these things, and marriage was not sort of one of my goals. I wanted a career.
So you wanted to throw your beanie at the end of the segment and just say, like, who turned the world on with her smile? Yeah. So you got into senior living, and that propelled you. And a woman-owned business in those days, 30 years ago, what were some of those obstacles beginning for you?
Well, I think this is a career path that lends itself to women. There's more, I think, advertising agencies that are owned and operated by men, or back then. So it was not that unusual, because in South Florida there were some real go-getter women that had PR firms.
And walking into a senior living community, how do you assess what the needs are?
Well, one of the services we do is the industry calls it a marketing assessment. And we're hired to come in and we look at a community, I always say, from the customer's vantage point. And we critique it and we make recommendations so that the community can better relate to their customer. So I was hired by a community outside of Atlanta, and when I drove up, you couldn't find it because the signage was very small, and the parking lot was filled with employees' cars, and there wasn't any guest parking. So, and then when you walked in, the lobby had become sort of it had a lot of clutter. From tissues to old magazines. So, these were some of the things that we pointed out to them that they could improve upon.
And do you find that people they're open to this, starting with the small steps? Like, how do you get someone to realize that they need you? They need the group. They need the elders group.
Well, usually there's a problem with the community and they aren't leasing as many apartments as they need to lease. So they have to do something to turn that situation around, because if an apartment, one vacancy, it could be anywhere from $5,000 a month up to $10,000 a month, and you multiply that out. That one vacancy is it's a lot of money. So by bringing in a consultant who can help them improve how they're reaching people, they appreciate it and that they're receptive.
How has it changed for you, the industry, post-COVID, post-pandemic? Because during the pandemic, there was a lot of shifting. And what was going on then versus what's going on now?
I wanted to tell you.
Good. I'm so glad, because we're here together for that to happen. It's amazing.
That was sort of the funniest thing. There was COVID. And all of a sudden, I had a book delivery. And all of my books that were promoting events, how to bring the customer to a community, weren't needed because all of the communities stopped having events. People were staying in they had to stay in their apartments. They didn't want people to be in the dining rooms together. I mean, COVID was a very, very challenging time for senior living communities.
Absolutely.
So the events now, my books are selling again because now communities are having events.
Yeah. So what was that? How has it changed now that we're open?
Well, they're doing much more internet and promoting on the internet, and I think that's the biggest change. But events have been resurrected because people aren't as afraid, to come to a community.
Absolutely. And do you have other partners that you're working with as well? Besides the PR firm, are you hire out subcontractors for social media? How does that work?
I have virtual employees.
Do they really exist, or are they AI?
No, they really exist. They're real. But one lady's in Georgia. Another woman who handles all of our media placement is in New Jersey. They aren't necessarily in my office.
So speak to that. How you work with them and you build campaigns. Talk about the campaigns that you're able to build with senior living communities.
Well, one of the things that has changed, it used to be that people wanted you on a retainer. Now, a lot of the work is more project oriented. So a community might be having a 50th anniversary and they want promotion tied to that anniversary. So we would plot that out, plan it out.
That's great. How many virtual assistants do you have?
It depends.
Good for you. That's an amazing thing to have that virtual opportunity.
I think COVID changed things. No one wanted to be in my office. So because no one was in the office, I was in the office. So I dressed every day like I was going to work, and it probably kept my sanity. That I didn't want to work from home. And the woman that works very closely with me, our vice president, Carrie Phillips.
Hi, Carrie Phillips. Shout out to you.
She just never wanted to come back. And I miss that interaction with people. Talk
about that during this pandemic, it gave us an opportunity, or at least for myself and folks that I align with, it gave us an opportunity to grow in a way that we never thought we could. And what were some of the things that you learned that helps us pivot, maybe move in a different direction and changes not only our trajectory in ourselves, but in our business? How did you move it forward?
I think I've embraced technology, and it's the same way we used to have a fax. Well, first we had a fax there was only one in the office, and you had to give it to the fax lady who would get to your
But I love the
document.
way it smelled when you got it. That ink smell. I don't know, something about that.
So, but fax went away,
Right.
and then we had emails. And so, I've just embraced technology, and fortunately, Carrie has helped me along. And Zoom has just been phenomenal. That's a major shift. It used to be, my day was going to different meetings and being in person in front of client meetings. And now no one wants to have a meeting. They just want to have a Zoom.
And additionally, your business is not only local, it goes across the country. So you're able to meet the needs of your potential clients.
Well, and they're more geared to Zoom. So it used to be someone would say, I need a local PR firm. I want somebody who's in my own backyard. I want somebody who knows the media in my area. And reporters aren't in the newsroom anymore. So it doesn't really make a difference where you're located if you have the right tools to give the media. It doesn't matter where you're located. And the same way with your clients, they don't care anymore that I'm in Florida and they're in California.
And is it a different client? Is it a different approach the obstacles that might come up from here, New York, California, Georgia?
Well, that's the interesting thing in senior housing. Elderly people, older adults, they have the same needs as the person in California. It has the same fears as the person in Florida. So it really doesn't make a difference.
When you're telling the story, is it person to person? Is the stories the press releases that come across? Is it this person did this at this senior living? Do you find that it's touching the nerve when it's heartfelt?
Oh, sure. Like there was an article that someone in my office wrote, and it was about why this community happens to have a golf membership, and a lot of the residents are golfers. So the article was about how these gentlemen spend their day and how important golf is, and how the senior living community affords them the ability to play golf all day and not have to worry about cooking and taking care of their apartment, because those are the services that the senior living community provides. So it was a much more heartfelt story than, we have an 18-hole golf course, blah, blah, blah.
And that's something that you learn because you're in the industry for such a long time, to know that's really what sells. And that's what people want to know, and that's how they want to connect with each other.
I'm really surprised, Fara. We offer podcast services, and I thought that this would really take off. But it's interesting. A lot of the senior living communities, their marketing teams are not embracing this as much as I thought.
Well, then you need to give me their number, and we need to talk to them together. And the importance of telling a story, because behind a brand are people. Just like they're with people, the elderly or those that need more help, so do they, to tell their story as a brand. Because people love to deal with who they know, and the faces behind each of these situations, in these wonderfully, incredibly rich atmospheres of living.
Exactly. We have one community. We found out there's a man celebrating his 93rd birthday the end of this month, and he sings. He's been singing since he was a boy, and doing a little research, singing is sort of like the fountain of youth. It's very, very good for your brain, your
Even
lungs.
if you're off pitch?
Oh, it doesn't make it. And you can sing in the shower. So we would love to promote his story because he's inspirational to other people to, they'll say, maybe I should try karaoke. But he would make a great podcast.
So he's a welcome on. And besides his singing, I know that, the Holocaust survivors, there's so many people with rich stories that need to be told, because this is the fabric of our world. This is the humanity of who we are.
We use podcasting for 3 senior living communities, and it was amazing. There was a man who he was in the military, and he helped save a ship that would turn it into a museum. I was just amazed at the stories that I was hearing.
And there are stories upon stories and upon stories.
It's like when a senior living community uses podcast, they can promote that these people are going to be your neighbors. And so you don't have to be afraid to live in this community, because you're going to be living next door to these fascinating people.
Absolutely. We all have a story to be told.
Mm-hmm.
In the moments that we have left, how does one community get involved, reach out to you to get in touch for more information?
Well, the Ehlers Group has a website, and they can call me, and they can go to the website.
It's the ehlersgroup.com. It's on the screen right now. And in the seconds that we have left, anything more you want to add to the story?
No, it's been wonderful talking with you.
Thank you.
I love talking about the Ehlers Group. So,
and we appreciate it, Janis, for you coming in. And I want to have the 93-year-old man in here to sing his heart. And if anybody else that wants to come on, because I think this is where we live. This is what we want in our lives. We want happy people as they grow older, to be vibrant and to express themselves till they can't anymore. So I thank you for the work that you're doing for our community and for joining me today on The Community Voice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for joining me today. I'm Fara. Until next time, take care of yourself.